Like
It's a different thing.
the real deal. The real deal, lady.
All right, here we go.
All right. Local recording.
Local recording, yes. Chat settings changed. Share. Let's go.
Let's go.
Here they come.
Uh-oh. All right, hold on. Where's my chat? Where's my chat? Here's my chat.
What's up, Ryan? What's up, Rambo?
So
What's
Ryan
up?
Rambo.
Ooh, I don't know if I can pronounce that one.
Nope.
Hello. Hello, Andy. Hello, Daniel, Matt, Jeremy, Justin, Chris, Bob. Bob Saget's here.
Wow.
Oh.
I met him.
Dimitri. What's up, Philip? What's up, Aaron? What's up? No. You've ruined it.
Did I tell you the story of when I met Bob Saget?
No.
We played a charity event with him, my old band. It was like a cancer charity event.
Did he open for you? Or
I think we opened for him. And his comedy was just super off color that night.
yeah,
It was just not landing with this this crowd.
Oh.
Was it in Utah?
It was in Vegas.
Oh.
Oh no. What did he do?
Well, he came off stage and I was standing there and he's like, well, that was rough. I was like, yeah, I give it like a 4 out of 10. He laughed. That was my only interaction with Bob Saget.
You
I
rated
remember
it. You
the first
rated
time I
him.
watched
I
the
rated
first yeah, he's probably like, the F am I listening to you for on my comedy review?
He
Yeah.
got it. He got it. It was funny. He got me. He understood me.
The first time I watched him, I was like, oh, that's the Full House guy. So I thought he was gonna be like super pure. And then I was like, dang. It's like watching it with my mom or something. I was like, we gotta shut this off.
What was that? It's that movie about the joke. You guys know what I'm talking about. Come on.
You're gonna have to give me a little more than that.
It's about the joke. The Aristocrats. That's right. The Aristocrats. Every time I think about Bob Saget, I think about his bit on the Aristocrats.
I don't think I ever saw that.
Oh, check it out. It's iconic. No, not the Aristocats. Very different vibe.
I've been watching a lot of Aristocats with my daughter recently, though. Speaking of which.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Speaking
a
of
big one for me.
Aristocats.
It was a big one for me growing up.
Hey.
Ah.
Oh, you want me to tell you my
What's your name
version of
here
the joke?
again?
Roxy.
No.
Roxy.
She's new. We found her.
That's right.
Where you guys coming in from? I saw a few locations already in the chat here. Make sure to change your chat settings from hosts and panelists to everyone. Okay? Chat settings from hosts and panelists to everyone. France. Oh man, New York City. UK, New Orleans, Philly.
What's up, Devontae from Chicago?
Mean Phila. Dallas. Norway. Zimbabwe. San Fran, Seattle, LA, San Diego. Couple San Diegos, New York's. Australia. Sick metal coming out of Australia. Connecticut. Mars. My couch. The other room. Buffalo. All right. Not too far. Right down the street. Germany, Boston, North Carolina. Am I the only Canadian? Probably not. I'm pretty close. Not quite.
Tajikistan. And I thought they were joking until I read the name. They're definitely from Tajikistan. Very cool.
Saskatoon, Nova Scotia. Sweet. Venezuela, Romania. Nice. Austria. Just talking. I was just telling you guys about that. Vienna at Christmas. Oh. What's another good, anybody got vacation destinations for Christmas time? Countries, cities? Puerto Rico, Brazil, Jamaica. Oh my God. Look at this. Palm Springs. Spider. Gotcha. Nope. Somebody just says nope. Aruba. Wow, I'm gonna have to go right back through the chat. Kind of.
I've done Christmas in Guatemala. I've done Christmas in Vegas. I've done Christmas in Florida / cruise. I think those are my 3 that I've done.
Yeah, someone
I
said
like,
stay
I
out of
like
Florida.
traveling for Christmas. Get rid of all the presents and just do a trip with the family. I think that's like,
Yeah,
that's like a
Agreed.
solid way to go, right?
That's
Yep.
what my parents used to do. Instead of birthday gifts, we would do a birthday trip.
Yep. Experiences over stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like that.
Yeah.
If you're not in the school community, if you guys want to get the replays from yesterday, join the school community there. I just posted it in the chat. Got a lot of you in there. Coming up on 20,000 people in that group.
Dang.
Didn't
Yeah, we
even
get
know
started
that.
here in a few minutes, guys.
Producers. Everybody able to find the recordings yesterday? Okay. Oh, good. Do me a favor, actually. Put a 2 in the chat if you watch primarily the recordings over the live sessions. I love when people put 2 in the chat before I even.
Get done.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So those are very helpful, I'm assuming. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people watch.
Yeah.
Cool.
Helpful for review. Yeah. Sweet.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah,
Multi-track school.
Yep. Anybody start working on our remix contest? Anybody actually going to participate in the remix contest on our social media? Oh, here we go.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome.
Look at all the yeses.
How many
Everything worked okay for you guys. You were able to download the stems. Everything was clear. No issues there. Sweet. Yeah, if you guys aren't familiar, so we just announced our first ever remix contest yesterday on our Instagram. There's the handle. It's at masteringcom. If you go to our last post, you'll see the details for it. And if you drop a fire emoji in the comments, you can get entered for that remix contest. You just got to download the stems for the tracks in the link in the bio. So yeah, definitely go check that out if you haven't.
Do 104 comments on this thing.
like 100 entries so far? I mean, potential entries.
Okay, I'm gonna paste it. I'm gonna paste it in the chat for you guys who are interested in that. Woo.
Yeah, again, I said this yesterday, but even if you don't enter, if you can go and engage with that post, it'll just help us be able to do more contests like this in the future. So maybe this one isn't your cup of tea, but we'll be able to do more in the future. So if you can, go engage with that post, drop a comment, like it, share it with friends, something like that. Any of these free things that we do, the more engagement, the more participation, enthusiasm allows us to get more sponsors. The more sponsors we get, the more free stuff we get to do. So
No.
link is in the bio. Yeah, it should say enter the remix contest here, and then there should be a link right underneath the that.
Cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
should
all
be
the
fun.
all the instructions on that are through that link.
It's a really cool song. Did we mix that on our last VIP session, right?
Yeah.
It's one
I'm
of
not sure if we mixed it on VIP or if we mixed it in the session, the actual.
Was it last session?
I
London
think it
is
might have
burning.
been.
Did we do that last time or was that VIP? Oh, it was the last session. What a cool song. Yeah, that'll be fun to remix.
Yeah.
That's one of our wonderful employees in the company. She's amazing. Lucy, she's our student. What do we call her?
Student success.
Liaison
Student
Students
success manager,
specialist.
specialist.
specialist, liaison
She works
specialist.
with all of our students to make
Oh,
sure
that's
they stay
corporate
on
speak.
track and have someone to, she's the awesome.
Caleb, Josh is asking how are Lewitt microphones? You got they sent you one of those, right?
They sent me some, and I've been playing with them, and they're awesome so far. Really cool.
Yeah. I've heard phenomenal things about them.
For the price point, I'm comparing them to my stuff that's 2-3 times more expensive. So the tube especially is very cool.
What do you think, guys? You want to jump in here?
One
Yeah,
more
go-
quick thing. If you
win
guys
that
are
tube- go win that tube mic in the remix contest. It's a good prize. That's like a $2,000 to $4,000 mic in my opinion. For
Yeah, I was gonna say one more thing too. If you guys are enjoying the challenge and having fun, if you can, take a picture, post it on Instagram, tag us, and then we'll share that on our story as well. Again, we're just trying to get the word out there about this event and how great it is. So more people we get to share it with, the more free stuff we get to do. So that's my pitch for the day. You guys can take over now.
get out of here, Michael.
That's it.
Thank you, Michael.
Got my camera off soon.
This guy out of here. Let's have some fun.
Let's do it.
Ready to begin? Shall we? Let's do this. One's in chat if you're ready to go. Who had fun yesterday? That was a good time. You guys are a good group.
You guys are good sports. Dealing with my silly vocals, silly track.
Again, if you missed introductions yesterday, my name is Caleb Lovelace, Director of Education for Mastering.com. We have Jake Codewise here. He's one of the mentors for the program. He's doing the demonstrations this week. He's been successful in the industry for a very long time. You've seen his expertise both in production and mixing and mastering started yesterday. And then we have Michael Gilbride. He's the brains behind all this. He's the reason why you're all here, sending out the emails, sending out the text. He's the general manager of Mastering.com. And we're happy to have you all back again. I think it's so cool, especially the people that keep coming back. Sometimes I call you gluttons for punishment since these sessions are long and tedious, but how cool is it that you're taking time out of your day to come and learn and grow and be better? It's not lost on me, the value of that. It's really easy to have an ego or, you want the easy way, but if you're showing up to this stuff, you're looking for real answers, you're looking for deeper stuff, and you're willing to put the time in, which I think is very, very cool. And we respond to that a lot. We're happy to host these free events for you.
Who's sneaking away from work for this? One's in chat if you're playing a little hooky. F yeah. I love that. I'll write a doctor's note for you all.
Dr. Michael.
It's not lost on me. It's very cool that you're all here. Thanks to our sponsor for this month's event, Mastering the Mix. They make incredible plugins. We showed you one of those yesterday. We don't partner with just anybody, actually. We definitely partner with brands that we use. We partner with brands that we respect, who have a similar mission, vision, and values as we do. These guys are absolutely phenomenal, and they are doing stuff the right way. In our opinion, they're creating not only plugins that are powerful, but also plugins that are helpful in teaching you more about what's going on. A lot of times within your mix and master, they're educational a lot of times. So it's very cool. Love these guys. Give them a check out if you haven't yet.
Yeah, they've been great.
And yesterday I posted this in the community, but the goal yesterday was to do a volume only mix. How many of you started that? One's in chat if you started your volume only mix. Whether it was your own song or this from the stems Jake posted in school. Got a few people. How far were you able to push it? Was it fun? Did you find it kind of an interesting game or mindset? Did it keep you out of rabbit holes? Did it give you
Mind-blowing.
perspective?
Mind-blowing, inspiring, game changer.
That was
Great.
the best
All
for
right.
me yesterday.
Exposed how bad my recordings were.
Oh,
Really good.
yep. It's very hard to make something that is a bad performance or a bad capture sound really good. You might think that some of these guys are wizards at cleaning up stuff and making it sound better than it was recorded or performed, but that's not really how it works. Good recordings, good performances lead to good mixes lead to good masters. So we can reverse engineer that process once we have more perspective about the end. But I'm glad that it was interesting for you all. The concepts, the power of volume, of course, that it affects frequencies, width, depth the most, all the dimensions of space, height, width, and depth. It is your most powerful tool. It's your least destructive tool. We got to use it as much as we can before we start using some of that other stuff. And you'll find that if you do, you can work with a lot more intention. I think just using volume shows a lot of intention. You're having to think in those dimensions of space first. And I think that's a great mindset, but it also prepares you for the rest of the process as you're going through. We noticed what Jake did yesterday as you're going through the volume only. You're making notes of the stuff you can't solve with volume. That's a great place to start for the rest of the process. You don't dive into it in the moment. You just stay in the volume only, but you make little notes to yourself. This is the stuff that I couldn't fix with just volume, which means when Jake works today, we already have a list of things that we know we couldn't solve. We don't have to go into it kind of wondering where to start. We know where to start and we know what to solve, and we know it couldn't be solved with volume. And now so we can work with a ton more intention today. It's a very beautiful process when you understand it that way. And everything is about efficiency and precision. When I work with students, a lot of the students we work with are kind of stuck at maybe an intermediate plateau, or maybe looking for that last 20%. 20%, the 20%, I think, can talk. The 20%, I think, often comes down to efficiency and precision. It comes to speed. So when you speed up your process, when everything becomes more instinctual for you, you stay in creative spaces. You're able to attach to the creative space, and you're able to attach to objectivity, because that stuff, time is kind of your enemy when it comes to mixing and production. The longer you spend on stuff, your ears start to play tricks on you. You start to, or you just maybe lose the creative space, or you maybe lose the objective mindset. And so a lot of times what that last 20% ends up being is just speeding things up so that you can stay in the objectivity and the creativity for those moments. You know how to act, you know what knobs to turn, you don't have to think about it, you know exactly what to do, and then all of a sudden your stuff gets to a higher level. And so hopefully this mindset of volume and this intention just helps speed everything up. And then we learned a little bit about the mastering mindset, the power of that. Thinking about the end, we're already learning, and you'll learn more about what will make masters hard to do. And if we can clean up the process all the way from the beginning, from the very first time we press record, all the way through production, all the way through mixing, that's how you get to great masters. It's not done in mastering, it's done through the entire process. And mastering will expose both the beautiful things you did through the entire process and the mistakes you made. They'll become blaringly obvious to you as you turn up that volume towards industry standard. So there's a lot of value in having that perspective, learning to think like a mastering engineer. All right, what are our goals for today? To better understand when and why to control frequencies, we're going to work with EQ. We're going to work with dynamics processing, so your compressors, your clippers, your limiters, why and when to use those things. We're going to give you a formula for better spatial processing. I think a lot of people have a hard time with reverbs and delays. It's a really great way to make your stuff sound fantastic. It's also a really great way to make your stuff sound very amateurish if you do it the wrong way. Struggling with reverb is a big thing I see with people. So we're going to give you a formula to find the sweet spot for that. And then I'll teach you a little bit more about the end in mind perspective of mastering. And we're only working with instrumentals today. So the vocals we'll all do tomorrow. Tomorrow will be a giant vocal day. There was a ton of vocals in this track, so that'll be a really fun one. But today we're going to get the instrumental sounding fantastic. Let's get into it. I'm going to give you a few high-level concepts. I won't be too long about this. We'll jump right into the DAW today and watch Jake work. But I want to talk about a few mistakes and a couple things about dynamics processing and a couple things about frequency processing. It's easy to think we need to apply EQ all the time to every track, that every track needs it. The reality is that we should think about what needs it first. We should solve the problems. We should hear the problems and just address those, this intention that I'm talking about. Assuming everything needs EQ is just a rabbit hole. You start to get in there, you start to overanalyze things. Just solve the problems that you're hearing. Don't assume that everything needs EQ. And then when it comes to masking, if you don't know what masking it is it's when frequencies are building up in certain areas, right? Maybe the mids oftentimes are a big culprit of masking. A lot of elements of the mix actually have frequencies that kind of build up in those mids. So we're oftentimes digging those out, okay, and making room for everything. I think a lot of times when dealing with masking, people aren't aggressive enough. And what that means is that they're not thinking about it with a global perspective. They're thinking too locally. When you start having these instruments that start building up in certain areas, okay, if you were to solo those and make your moves based upon how it sounds in solo, you're definitely going to be scared by how much you probably need to cut out to make it work. In solo, it probably will sound pretty bad. But you start to have to think about things in a global perspective. And when you have things that are kind of building up in certain areas, what the mindset should be is, let's sit back, let's think about what are the most special parts of each of these sounds, and then really aggressively cut out the rest. When you solo it, it's going to sound, again, very strange. But when you put them all together, the psychoacoustic thing that happens is your ears hear as if all of them are kind of full bandwidth, because all the frequencies are being played. The ear doesn't necessarily pick up on where the sounds are coming from. If they're all accounted for, all of them will sound more full and right.
Yeah,
Even
your
if
brain is really good.
Yeah.
Your brain is really good at filling in the gaps.
That's right. And so you actually have to be a lot of times more aggressive than you think you need to actually carve out enough space to clear up those mids, to clear up those areas so that your mixes aren't muddy. And we'll demonstrate that today, but it's not about local perspective. It's about a global perspective and really carving those spaces out, finding the special parts of each of those tracks and carving out the rest. It might look something like this. And we have to think the audio is greater than the sum of its parts. Big aggressive cuts like that, but when you overlap them together, all the frequencies for the most part are being accounted for here. And that's the point. And when you put them all together, they'll sound like they should. All right, we're also going to get a master class today on clipping, limiting, compression. Jake is someone who uses limiting and clipping a lot more than he uses compression. And the reason is he understands the value of what clippers and limiters do in a way that I think a lot of people don't. Let me break down for you the way that he uses these so you can better understand his approach. And if it's something you want to adopt, that's something that you can adopt for yourself. Why does he clip or limit? It's really faster at controlling dynamics. A lot of times why we're using compression, why we're using these tools is to control dynamics. It's not the only reason, but it's like 70-80% of the time. That's why we're using these tools. And in reality, a clipper or limiter will actually get you there faster than a compressor will. A compressor has like 10 knobs. You have to dial them all in. A clipper or limiter, when it comes to just taming transients and controlling dynamics, a clipper or limiter will get you there usually within one knob. And they're very effective at controlling those dynamics and transients. So instead of setting all those compression values, why not just pull the clipper or limiter? If what we're doing is speeding up our process and becoming more efficient, these are much more efficient at controlling dynamics. Why then compress? Well, he uses compression more for expanding dynamics. They are more versatile compressors. Those knobs do something. If you're adding character or you're expanding dynamics, they're much better at that. Clippers and limiters, for the most part, don't do that. So this is a very interesting way to approach this, and watch what he does today with this and how fast he's able to control dynamics and how he uses compressors to expand dynamics. I think it's very valuable. And I've learned a lot from him on that one myself. The other thing to watch for today is how he approaches spatial processing. How many of you struggle with spatial processing? Do you find it tricky? Getting it just super dialed in.
Somebody, lots of ones in chat, and then somebody wrote everybody.
I want to give you a high picture concept. I want to give you a high picture kind of mindset when you think about spatial processing. And I think if you keep this high level mindset in mind when you're doing your spatial processing, I think you'll find the promised land on this. Don't use it to cover up problems. A lot of times the reason why we use too much is because things aren't actually done right beforehand, right? Either the recording's not great, the performance isn't great, or the mix isn't great up to that point. So we're hearing problems, and a lot of times our go-to, instead of actually knowing how to fix the problems, is just to cover them up with space, because it has a way of just kind of putting frosting on top of everything. Okay. We can't use it to cover up problems. We have to solve all the problems first. The mix should sound really, really good before you ever do any of this spatial processing. And all it should be used for is that last little cherry on top of your mix to glue everything together and give it kind of that epic space that you're going for. So don't use it to cover up problems. And if you do, it'll cause you to use it too aggressively. For the most part, unless you're intentionally using it aggressively, these things should be done pretty moderately.
And sometimes in production.
For sure. The other thing I hear from people who are struggling with spatial processing is they're not tapping into the emotion of the track. There's very few things, I think, that actually push the emotional envelope as much as reverbs and delays. They really create a ton of the emotion of the track. We're very connected to the spatial effect of what we hear. And even in our environment, we're very aware of different environments that we're in acoustically. I think you could probably hear the acoustics of a forest or a cave or your living room or your grandma's house. You would be aware of it more than you think you would. And there's emotion tied to all of that. And in the same way, there's emotion tied to the production and the lyrical content and the vibe of every track. And if your reverbs and delays that you use, the spatial processing you use, is disconnected from that emotional scene, you've done a disservice to the track. You have to really be able to dial in and find the right space for the emotion that's going on. And I don't think that's something we always think about, but it's something you should start thinking about, because it's actually a very valuable tool once you understand that. The last thing is about finding the sweet spot. So how do we get diverse enough without being too diverse? And why does that matter? So if your spatial processing isn't diverse enough, what tends to happen is you lose depth and everything kind of sounds one note. Like if you just blasted one reverb on the whole track, unless that's what your intention was, it's going to sound pretty one note. And everything's just kind of mushed together, right? If it's too diverse, if you have reverbs, individual reverbs on every track, a lot of times what can happen is that everything feels too disconnected from each other. It's too chaotic. And so there's a sweet spot of diversity to where there's enough diversity that the instruments have their own character, their own vibe. They stand out from each other. They have their own space, but it's not so much that they feel disjointed from each other too much. There's like this sweet spot. That's what we're going for. And what Jake's going to teach you today is how to find that sweet spot. We have a kind of a method that usually will get you pretty close to the sweet spot of enough diversity to where everything has separation in the mix, but also not so much diversity that it feels disjointed. And that's really cool. So watch for that today as Jake builds out the spatial processing. And we can answer questions about this as we go on. All right, those are the things to watch for. EQ, notice how few tracks he'll apply it to, but when he does, how aggressive he is. Notice his use of clippers and limiters and the way he uses compression, and then notice the way he sets up his spatial processing. The rest of it will answer questions as we go. Jake, it's all you, man.
Oh, that's a quick one. It's awesome. Yeah, let's dive in. You guys ready to go? 23,439 in the chat if you're ready to go. All right. Say it again. And 23,439. All right. See what we got here. You guys seeing this okay? See my screen? Yeah, once? Cool. Awesome. So what I want to start with here is just a little bit of a listen through, kind of see where we're sitting with this track, kind of refresh, listen to it again after some time off, and kind of take some notes on the things that I'm hearing. All right. You guys hearing that okay?
Yep.
If you wanna run away with me, I know a galaxy and I can take you for a ride. I had a premonition that we fell into a rhythm where the music don't stop for life. Glitter in the sky, glitter in my eyes, shining just the way I like. If you're feeling like you need a little bit of company, you met me at the perfect time. You want me, I want you, baby. My sugar boo, I'm levitating. The Milky Way, we're renegading. I got you, you're starlight, you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating. You're starlight, you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating. I believe that you're for me. I feel it in our energy. I see us written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now or never. Baby, nothing's ever too far. Glitter in the sky, glitter in our eyes, shining just the way we are. I feel like we're forever every time we get together, but whatever, let's get lost our bars. You want me, I want you, baby. My sugar boo, I'm levitating. The Milky Way, we're renegading. Yeah. I got you, you're starlight, you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating. You're starlight, you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating. You can fly away with me tonight. You can fly away with me tonight. Baby, let me take you for a ride. For a ride. I'm levitating. You can fly away with me tonight. You can fly away with me tonight. Baby, let me take you for a ride. Yeah. You want me, I want you, baby. My sugar boo, I'm levitating. The Milky Way, we're renegading. I got you, moonlight, your starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating. You can fly away with me tonight. You can fly away with me tonight. Baby, let me take you for a ride. For a ride, baby, come on. I'm levitating. You can fly away with me tonight. You can fly away with me tonight. Baby, let me take you for a ride. I got you, moonlight, your starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating. You, moonlight, your starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating.
Cool. Nice. What are some things that you guys are noticing? Separation needed in the mids, somebody says. Muddy vocals, muddiness in the bridge. Great verb on drums. Drums mask some vocals, need more clarity. Lack of clarity, vocals a bit dry. Yep. No spatial separation, side changing chorus. But ignore the vocals for now. We're doing like instrumental kind of stuff. Volume fluctuations, needs more cowbell, somebody says. Yeah, a lot of great stuff. This is good. This is good. Someone says perfect, send it. There's nothing wrong with it. Ah, that's sweet. These are the things that I kind of picked out as being the biggest hammers to swing here. You know, things that were just kind of like popping out at me. In terms of EQ, compression, things like that, right? Verse and volume. Verse 1 vocals too low. I feel like the verse is just a touch too low here. And then there's some low build-up, some low mid build-up when the chorus is hit. And all of those kind of instruments kind of come into play there, right? We've got guitar versus vocal in verse 2. The lead vocal starts to get buried a little bit by just the density of the arrangement. And then I just want to hear like a little bit more of those monster vocals in the breakdown, right? So if there's a problem that, Justin, if there's a problem that can't be solved with like the simple tools, then I will demonstrate mid-side EQ. But most things can be solved with a lot of the simple tools, right? So there may or may not be a reason to use mid-side today. We'll see. So let's just kind of go through this punch list. I've got some notes here from the other day too. Higher vocals in verse 2, overall gain automation on the vocal anyway. Guitar volumes in the breakdown may be too high. I'm going to save these for vocals. And I'm going to stick these over here. Again, this is my punch list, so frequencies, cool. Not really hearing a lot of dynamics issues except for the vocals, which we'll take care of in day 3. Right, but I am going to show you a few things here, specifically on the drums. Filter, I'm levitating. That's kind of more of an enhancement thing. And then guitar versus vocal. Yeah, I have that as a note already. So there we go. There's my punch list. Let's start with this guitar low mid buildup. You know, kind of getting a little bit of that here. Yeah, so I think probably what's going on is the bass and the guitars are kind of like stacking up on top of each other there. Yeah, I think it's probably most likely coming from the bass. Yeah, absolutely. Just flubby, kind of a flubby kind of bass sound happening here. So we're going to fix that. We're going to tighten all of that up. So it's not necessarily guitar low mid. It's just like tightening up the lows. Yeah, so let's bring this in. So we've got on the drums. First, we're going to manage the bass and kick relationship here. Cool. So that should kind of help with the flubbiness. I'm just basically cutting out all of this low end information here where the kick is sitting, right? So I'm giving that kick room to breathe in the frequency spectrum. And you can hear, you know, the low end of the bass, you know, all those sub frequencies and all those frequencies that were kind of clashing with the kick. Since we've lifted those out, we're now going to get a little bit of a tighter relationship. That's the hope anyway, right? Right, can't even really hear a difference, but you're going to feel it in the mix. It's a lot of energy to save. We're going to go to guitars. So that's all. So in the mix, the bass kind of gets lost on some of those higher notes, and it's actually a little bit more present on some of the flubbier kind of lower notes. So we're going to manage the dynamics of that bass. Try to kind of even that out a little bit more. Such a silly sounding part. So first I'm just going to flatten it. And this is just a limiter, right? So if I turn this off, take a look at the meter here. See how it's dancing up and down? Boop, 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 boop. Right? You guys seeing that? Yeah. And then once I turn this on, right? We've got a nice consistent signal happening here, right? And that's what I want. That's what I want for this track. That's what I want for this, this bass, right? It's not something that, it's not to say this is something you do every single time, right? But it's what I feel like this track needs in order to kind of like get that nice, consistent kind of foundational bass sound, right? And we're going to get these vocals out of here and just kind of see how this sits. Way more consistent, right? Caleb, I see you nodding your head. You can hear that, right?
You all hear that? There were times where the bass would just poke out a little too much or just dip back a little too much. Notice it's subtle, but it makes a difference that it's just even now.
Yeah, it's a little bit more even. Totally. I still think we can clean up a little bit of that low end. That tightens that up. Just a couple plugins there, right? Think about the, I want you to think about the lowest portion of the song, right? The lowest frequencies here. Right? Ba-ba-bop, ba-ba-bop. Those notes, ba-ba-bop, ba-ba-bop. Those notes are the ones getting tightened up and cleaned up, right? We're not as muddy. We're not as kind of like woofy here now, right? So just, that's what I mean by tightening up the low end, right? Cleaning it up so it's not as woofy, not as muddy. Now we've got this kick drum actually kind of punching through a little bit better here too. And let's check our analyzer. And that's generally the kind of curve we want to see. Now, granted, the vocals aren't there, but we can kind of see where the pocket, where the vocals are actually going to be sitting, right? Cool.
You could
Yeah,
have
that
you could have done that with the compressor, but look how easy that was to do with the limiter. It just did what we needed it to do, and it was one knob.
Yeah, totally. One and done. Any questions on that before we move on?
If you missed yesterday, that PAS should be a gentle slope down from 60 hertz to 16,000. That's what balanced music will look like on the PAS.
Will limiters add any tone? Not typically. I mean, it depends on what you use, but like this one's meant to be transparent.
Clippers will a bit more. No, he's not compressing at all. He's just limiting.
Yeah, I didn't compress at all. I don't need to. I need to. I'm using a limiter to control dynamics. What do you want to carry the low end in this track? Yeah, kick and bass. Kick and bass carry the lows. Totally. What are your thoughts on limiters to increase loudness? Yes, you have to. You just gotta use them. That's the primary tool for loudness. Whose limiter was that? This is a limiter called Loudmax. Loudmax limiter. You can just Google it. It's completely free. It's my go-to limiter for mixing. Is this genre specific? No, absolutely not. All these principles apply across genres, no matter what kind of music you're working with. Yeah, well limited. Can you use multiple limiters in the project? Yes, you can. You can use it on anything you want to control the dynamics of. That's what the limiter is actually doing to the bass. See that? See how much more squashed it is? Versus that, where we got more buzzsaw going on, right? That's the difference in the waveform. We're squishing all these peaks down to make the notes a little bit more consistent. Why not use Logic Pro stock limiter? You can use that. That's fine. You use any limiter you want. You know, don't let the plugins like bog you down. Just like focus on the concepts here. Any limiter you want to control dynamics. How do you know you've gone too far limiting? It will start to sound super weird. Why use a compressor instead of a limiter? If I want more of a subtle touch on something to control dynamics, or if I want to create punch, or if I want to add like a little bit of flavor, character, or vibe. Did you use compression while recording? No. Would you put your limiter on the bus as opposed to the track? For instance, several instruments on the bus? Yes, you're going to see me do something like that, some kind of dynamic control on a bus as we continue forward. Yep, you can use limiters on vocals.
Yes, Brian.
It's not chopping the peaks off. It's just that's what a limiter does. It turns down the peaks after it reaches the threshold. Yeah, yep, limiters can make the track flat and boring if you overuse them. Totally. Absolutely. If you misuse anything, you can screw things up. All right, we got to move on, guys. A lot of these questions too, like just write them down, Google them later, you know, YouTube them later. We're going to answer as much as we can, but we got a lot to cover. So we're going to move on. Okay. Go, go, go. David says, cool. Sweet. Let's keep moving. So how much bass I end up turning up in this mix, I'm going to leave to a reference check, right? So right now I'm happy with the way, with where the bass is sitting in the mix, but I'm going to compare that to some of my references to see where they're sitting in terms of bass. Let's check it out. This one has a lot of sub on the bass. Not sure I want to go that direction. That's just not a section that has a lot of bass in it. So let's try to do another one. This actually has less bass content than mine does. Let's see. Mine has more bass than this one too. Check this one out. Yeah, so pretty consistently across these 4 tracks, at least without kind of like getting into these, there's actually more bass. You know, comparatively, mine has more bass. You know, the question now is, where's the bass coming from, basically, right? Where is that content coming from? Is it coming from the bass guitar or is it coming from the kick drum? I think pretty obviously to me anyway, it's the kick. Yeah, and you guys called it too. I just looked up at the chat to see if you guys were with me. You guys are just like kick, 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 kick. So right on. Good job. Really good job, guys. That's awesome. So let's bring down the kick a little bit. Right? If I had the individual kick track, I might play with the volume just a little bit. But just shelving that kick a couple decibels. We're still seeing that nice curve. What else are you guys noticing here? I'm actually noticing that the drums are a little bit too high up.
Too high in general. Yep, that's what I was gonna say.
Yep.
Compared to the references, you can hear that they're louder.
So let's do a little bit of
Also-
rebalancing here.
I've also found that kick to be just a little clicky sometimes, so this will help just set it back in the mix of here.
Exactly. Exactly. Right now they're just like they're like that. Let's just bring them back a little bit. See what that does. Couple decibels maybe. We'll start there. Let's think about guitars. Yeah, guitars too. Guitars can just pop down just a touch. And let's bring vocals back in. A little bit better, right?
Yep.
Just a touch. So we're gonna actually fix that, some of these gross frequencies on that shotgun too. But I think overall, volume wise, right? Yep, got a little bit of mud going on with these guitars. Just gonna kind of tame that just across the board. Cool.
See, here's the thing. Some of you are saying bass needs to come up, bass needs to come up. But what's happening right now is the bass is coming out more because of these moves, right? Pulling down the drums a little bit, pulling down the guitars a little bit, clearing out some space in the guitars. Instead of just turning everything up all the time, we start moving our faders and they slowly start to get louder and louder and louder. You got to find ways to clear out space. Now you're starting to hear the bass more.
The rebalance of those instruments is going to change the landscape of everything. You know, sculpting the kick, the guitars, and the bass the way that we have now is going to change the relationship of everything else. Right. So I think, you know, we've taken care of that chorus low build up. Guitar volumes and breakdown. Let's go to that. Let's jump over to that. Do something a little bit different here. Probably went a little bit too much there. I still want some of that like that chunky beef to come through. So I'm just gonna dip out just like a little bit here. Just shelf this down a little bit.
That chunky beef by Campbell's.
Chunky beef. Yeah, any of the chunkies. I love those chunkies. Oh my God. That's a meal. Where are all the football players doing those chunky commercials?
Yeah.
So since we brought those drums down, like all of the effects can also come down. Cool. I'm pretty happy with that. Higher vocals in verse 2. Let's go check it out. See what we got. Maybe verse 1. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna take out the lows on these guitars individually. Just these verse guitars, they're too muddy. Taking up space. Much better. I might take more out of that. Let's see.
Feels written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now. I never made it, nothing's ever too far.
Those vocals are starting to come through now.
All night, come on, dance with me. I'm levitating. I believe that you're for me. I feel it in our energy. I see it's written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now. I never made it, nothing's ever too far. sky,
Okay. I think that's fine. And I think this is going to fix itself once we do take care of this guitar versus vocal. Right. Something's going on with this part right here. There's some fighting going on. There's some masking, frequency masking going on that we need to clear up. Let's do it.
I believe that over me, I feel it in our energy. I see us written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now and never, baby. Nothing's ever too far. Glitter in the sky, glitter in our eyes, shining just the way we are. I feel like we're forever every.
It's already being cleared up.
I believe that over me, I feel it in our energy. I see us written in the stars.
That's the culprit. That's why. You guys hear that? As soon as I turned on this verse synth, the lead vocal started to duck back in the mix, right? That's the culprit. Check it out. I'm gonna just kind of click on and off this verse synth. Ready? First off, and you'll notice that vocal comes through. As soon as I turn it on, that vocal starts to sync back and become a little less intelligible, right?
I believe that over me, I feel it in our energy. I see us written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now and never, baby. Nothing's ever too far. Glitter in the sky, glitter in our eyes, shining just the way we are. I feel like we're forever every time we get together, but whatever. Let's
Did you guys hear that? Want me to do it again?
This could be a good moment for a mid-side trick.
It sure could. Somebody asked for mid-side.
Someone wanted to see it. This could be a good moment for it.
There. Let's just narrow it down to both of these. This is the instrument we're talking about right here. That one. It's poor sound selection on the producer's part. What a dork.
I believe that over me, I feel it in our energy. I see us written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now and never, baby. Nothing's ever too far. Glitter in the sky, glitter in our eyes, shining just the way we are.
But I actually like the air on the sides at least.
As
think
do
that-
I.
Nice.
I think that was probably the producer's intention for this part.
I believe that over me, I feel it in our energy. I see us written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now and
So a few ways we can handle this, right? Like good old fashioned EQ.
I believe that over me, I feel it in our energy. I see us written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now and never, baby. Nothing's ever too far.
Jake must now wear the cone of shame. Just for like a brief break, guys. Instead of putting cones on our dogs when we got them neutered, we put baby onesies on them.
That's funny.
So of course, like me being an idiot, like I would let them outside without unbuttoning the onesie, and they'd end up crapping all inside the.
Perfect.
What a dummy. Yeah, oops, exactly. Yeah, not allowed to babysit. Yeah. It's all part of my plan.
You're so married.
Anyway. Let's get back into this thing.
I believe
Well-
that over me, I feel it in our energy.
Did you have something to add?
Moral of the story, just don't get dogs.
No, stop. Don't say that. Don't say that.
I believe that over me, I
Jake and
feel it
I-
in our energy.
Jake and I have I'm a cat guy, he's a dog guy. Anyway. It's all just jokes.
It's a wonder why we get along
Yeah,
So-
right.
so
You're-
swimmingly.
You're the yin to my yang.
That's
right?
that's what it is.
I believe that over me, I feel it in our energy. I see us written in the stars.
All right. Anyway,
I believe that over me, I feel it in our energy. I see us written in the stars.
Cool. Let's bring up an EQ on both of these, you know, just so we can kind of like marry what we're hearing to what we're seeing. Make faster decisions, right?
I believe that you're for me, I feel it in our energy, I see us written in.
Where are you sitting these? Where are you seeing these instruments sit? Right? We've got the synth on the left and we've got the voice on the right. Check out where they're sitting on the frequency spectrum.
I believe that you're for me, I feel it in our energy, I see us written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now or never, baby, nothing's ever too far. Glitter in the sky, glitter in our eyes, shining just the way we are. I feel like we're forever every time we get together, but whatever, let's get lost on Mars.
This is where I'm seeing like everything happening, basically, right? This area, this 800 1K area. There's a lot of content on the vocal here,
I
right?
believe that you're for me, I feel it in our energy, I see us written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now or never, baby, nothing's ever too far.
Lots of competition happening there, right? So synth,
I believe that you're for me, I feel it in our energy, I see us written in the stars.
that's where the content is, or the energy is most present on this that synth as well, right? So what can we do? Here's one way to handle it. Just a simple cut right there.
I believe that you're for me, I feel it in our energy, I see us written in the stars.
So if I were to pump this up, right, you should hear the vocal becoming more and more difficult to hear.
I believe that you're for me, I feel it in our energy, I see us written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now or never, baby, nothing's ever too far.
Right? And then if we cut it,
I believe that you're for me, I feel it in our energy, I see us written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now or never, baby, nothing.
that vocal is starting to sit in a nice little pocket there, right? Very, very simple kind of method for handling this kind of masking, right? This is all stock stuff, right? Stock EQ. Just duck it down, right? A few other ways that you can handle this problem. One is that new plugin from Mastering the Mix, which acts kind of like Track Spacer, which I don't have yet, admittedly, so I can't demonstrate this. I would love to demonstrate this. I just don't have it yet, guys. But it's called Fuser. And it will it's basically a dynamic sidechain dynamic EQ, right? And it will automatically duck down the competing frequencies for you, right? Only when they're an issue. Yeah, definitely check that out. Thank you, Sarah, for putting that in the chat. Sarah just plugged a link in. Check that out. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like, from what I understand, it is like Track Spacer on steroids. You know, just like the algorithm just like functions really well, just like on a deeper level.
Is it
So-
more precise than Track Spacer then?
I think so.
So it's more
Again,
like, it's more
again.
like it's more like a soothe that side chain.
Yeah, it's kind of like Soothe Track Spacer had a baby, right?
Oh,
So
soothe
Yes.
spacer.
super cool. Soothe Spacer, yeah. Fused together.
Oh. Always know who our students are in the chat. Drinking game.
Did I mention Soothe? I mentioned Soothe?
Yeah, we did.
Boop.
It's a little drinking game within our.
In our community. Someone heard it last time. Yeah, that's funny. Yep, Soothe has a sidechain function that you can use to do this also. You know, that's another way to solve this problem. So that's 3 ways, you know. Another way might be to think about this in terms of mid-side. We talked about this, that we were going to talk about this a little bit. So where is the vocal sitting in the mix? Like across the left to right spectrum, right? Where is it in the mix? I'm asking you guys. Middle, exactly. Right in the middle, right in the center, dead center. right? Where is this verse synth sitting in the mix? Same. People say same. But here's the thing. It's not just sitting in the center. There's stereo information.
I believe that you're for me, I feel it in our energy, I see us written in the...
Right? It's wide. So there's content happening here with this synth. There's content happening in the middle, and then there's content happening at the sides, like all across the stereo spectrum, all across the field, right? So where is the problem occurring? Where is the masking actually occurring if we talk about the middle versus the sides of the mix? It's in the middle. Exactly. It's exactly right. There's overlap happening in the middle of the mix, not in the sides. There is no vocal in the sides, at least not yet. But right now, that lead vocal is sitting right in the middle. So how do we solve the problem? Maybe we can just EQ where the problem exists. In the middle, right? This is where mid side comes into play. So if I select this option here, mid only, now we'll be EQing only the mids, only the mid, only the center of this synth.
Sides of the stereo spectrum. Sides, stereo spectrum outside, middle of the stereo spectrum is in the middle. This is
Yeah.
only affecting what's in the middle.
And it gets, technically it gets deeper than that. It's like sum and difference, that whole conversation. You guys like go ahead and YouTube that stuff, Google that stuff, right? But that's like the simplified way of kind of like thinking about it, the middle versus the sides, right? Center versus sides. So we'll just cut the competing frequencies in the middle and leave the sides untouched. So now we still have 801K happening in the sides, but we've pulled it out of the center. We've pulled it out of the middle of the mix, right? Let's see what that does with the vocal in play, right? It's cool to listen to, and it's important to understand that concept that you can solve problems in that way, right? But all that really matters is what it sounds like in context. So let's take a listen.
I believe that you're for me, I feel it in our energy, I see us written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now or never, baby, nothing's ever too far. Glitter in the sky. I believe that you're for me, I feel it in our energy, I see us written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now.
Clears up space, but does it clear up space? You know, do we like this over stereo? Let's see.
I believe that you're for me, I feel it in our energy, I see us written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now or never, baby, nothing's ever too far.
And mids.
I believe that you're for me, I feel it in our energy, I see us written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now or never, baby, nothing's ever too far.
I like them both for different reasons. Again, we're never going to be listening to these two things
Solo.
alone.
This goes back to what I was talking about earlier.
Right?
There's a ton of other stuff happening in that range that you're cutting out, the vocal, the guitars, even some of that bass. So you probably won't hear much of a difference in context.
Let's test it. Pay attention to the vocals and the synth through everything else that's going on. I want you to try to laser focus on the vocals and the synth, right? And I'm just going to switch this EQ curve from stereo to mid, just like back and forth a whole bunch of times. So keep an eye on my mouse here too. All right. There we go. We're going to start with stereo.
I believe that you're for me, I feel it in our energy, I see us written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now or never, baby, nothing's ever too far. Glitter in the sky, glitter in our eyes, shining just the way we are. I feel like we're forever every time we get together, but whatever, let's get lost now. I believe that you're for me, I feel it in our energy, I see us written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now or never, baby, nothing's ever too far. I believe that you're for me, I feel it in our energy, I see us written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now or never, baby, nothing's ever too far. I believe that you're for me, I feel it in in our energy. I see us written in the stars.
I'll turn it up in the mix a little bit so you can hear it.
Mid seems to be creating a little bit, some nice space actually. When you do the mid one.
So it feels like a little bit more immersive, right?
Yeah, it's spreading it out a little bit. It's making it bigger this way. Just subtly.
Let's listen again.
I believe that you're for me. I feel it in our energy. I see us written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now and never. Maybe nothing's ever too far. I believe that you're for me. I feel it in our energy. I see us written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now and never. Maybe nothing's ever too far. I believe that you're for me. I feel it in our energy. I see it.
I could go either way on this. I could go either way on it. If I were mixing this just like very, very quickly and just kind of like making my way through without teaching, I would probably just go with a stereo and just like get it done, move on to the next thing. But I do see I do hear there being a benefit to using a mid cut instead of a stereo cut, in terms of like the immersive nature of the part, right? Like it really does. It just kind of like there's something about it that feels wider. It just feels wider. You're changing some things. There's a little bit of a phasing, there's going to be a little bit of a phasing thing happening here too, right? So I'm into it. Let's keep it. And then let's kind of bring it down to the mix again. I'm going to rebalance a little bit.
I believe that you're for me. I feel it in our energy. I see us written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now and never. Maybe nothing's ever too far. Glitter in the sky, glitter in our eyes, shining just the way we are. I feel like we're forever every time we get together. But whatever, let's get lost on Mars.
Most importantly, do you hear how when it's engaged, the vocals suddenly just go whoop? They come forward.
Whoopity-doo.
I believe that you're for me. I feel it in our energy. I see us written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now and never. Maybe nothing's ever too far. Glitter in the sky, glitter in our eyes, shining just the way we are. I feel like we're forever every time we get together. But whatever, let's get lost on Mars.
Cool.
Blanket removed.
Blanket removed. Exactly. Jorge. Exactly. Blanket removed. And now I no longer feel the need to like push the vocal up, like bring the volume of that vocal up in the mix. Right? I could have just pushed the volume up, but it wouldn't have solved the frequency masking problem. And it may have created problems elsewhere in the mix with all the other relationships that are going on. Right? So instead, we've actually made something sound clearer by carving out space on something else, only where the problem was occurring. Make sense? You guys with me? Is this making sense? Hopefully turning on some light switches. Nice little lesson on mid-side there.
It was fun.
Yeah,
Music's
call.
fun.
Music is fun. It should be. Cool. Awesome. Guys, why don't we take a little break before we move on down through this punch list? Little 5-minute, little fiver, little bio break. Okay.
Let's do it.
Awesome.
See you all
Awesome.
at 5.
Yeah, I'm going to bring up the timer here. Not just going to bring up any timer, though. That's going to be my favorite one. The Goog. The Google timer. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. All you have to do is type timer in the Google search bar, and this little beauty will pop up. Get to breaking. See you in 5. And we're back. What's up, guys? No, I haven't done any, answer your question, BB. I haven't done any automation. And if we have any, guys, if we have any other questions, quick questions, we can answer those now before we move on. If you could only have, that's a fun question. If you could only have one limiter, one clipper, and one compressor, which one would you pick? Interesting. My limiter would probably be this Loudmax one. My clipper would be probably V-Clip from Ven Audio. And no, I think it would probably have to be Saturate from Newfangled. V-Clip is great utility, but Saturate's just, I think, just takes it in terms of quality. Ooh. And then for compressor, oh man, probably just like an 1176.
Maybe I'd pick a Shadow Hills compressor just because it's two compressors, really. And so you could do lots of different stuff with it.
If we're talking about versatility, I would pick a distressor.
That's another good one. That's so much versatility.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to pick one compressor that could like do it all, that I could do like a whole bunch of different stuff with, I would do the distressor. 100%, billion percent.
Yeah, I love the CL1B as well.
That was a cool question. Fun question. How do you train your ears to find frequency clashes? Go to soundgym.co. And just do that every day.
Problem is if your room isn't inaccurate or your headphones are inaccurate, you'll be training your ears inaccurately. Could be a problem.
Yeah, that's true too. How do I make my room accurate?
Come take our program.
Yeah.
Longer answer.
Yeah, we don't have time for that. Anybody in reverse engineer? Here, one's in chat if you're in any of the reverse engineer programs. Yeah. Take a deep breath. Exactly. Yeah. Sweet. Yeah, we'll talk. We can talk more about that tomorrow. But yeah, can't give you like, we don't have the time for room acoustics lessons today. Alexandru, depends on what your mind's like. It all starts in the mind. Do we do these fix the mixes as a recurring class? Yeah, every month.
Yep.
When do you use Clipper instead of a limiter? I'll show you that. Show you that in a little bit. Oh God, live sound. Yeah, I was a theater manager, in charge of a 1,300 seat theater for 6 years, something like that. Did plenty of live sound. Hate it. I hate it personally. Just being very straightforward with you. For me, not for me.
Hard part is that no one ever loves the sound guy. They get no love when things are right. It's
They're
just-
ignored.
They're ignored, and then when things go wrong, they're responsible.
People are looking back. Yeah.
I have to say, when I was touring, I was had my fair share of frustration with sound guys, which I shouldn't have. Be kind to your sound guys. He probably sucks. If he sucks, he probably sucks because he's miserable. Because everyone treats him poorly.
Cool. We got quite a bit more to go here, guys. Let's forge ahead here. We'll answer some more questions in a little bit. Cool. So guitar versus vocal in verse 2, which actually wasn't a guitar versus vocal issue. It was a synth versus vocal issue. Let's move on to our next item in the punch list. Higher monster vocals in the breakdown. Where's the breakdown? Where are the monster vocals? It's just a volume thing. Let's check it out. Just want more of that like gross monster, right? Jake, could you talk like that for the rest of the Fix the Mix? No. This one was pitched like 4 or 5 down, maybe 6. Yeah. And then this one,
It's like a rocket, watch it blast off.
I think that's real. It might have been pitched down 1. Yeah, it sounds real, right? Yeah.
It's like a rocket, watch it blast off. And I'm feeling so electric, that's my ass off. And even in my water,
These are really going to get aggressive once we just like smash them with some saturation. Just wait.
to my jam stop. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's like a rocket, watch it blast off. And I'm feeling so electric, that's my ass off. And even if I wanted to, my jam stop. Yeah, yeah.
And Can't Stop, we're going to just bring that monster up a little bit too.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm sorry. The yes.
What do you sound? You sound like Little Shop of Horrors monster.
Yeah, Audrey too. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Seymour.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's like a rocket, watch it blast off. And I'm feeling so electric, that's my ass off. And even if I wanted to, my jam stop. Yeah, 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 yeah.
So funny. Okay, cool. Filter, I'm levitating before final bridge section. Let's check that out. This is technically a vocal thing. So let's save that actually. I mean, all this was vocal stuff too, but it's volume. So I just wanted to get it done. Fix shotgun. Yeah, let's get this shotgun situated. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet.
Yeah.
There's there's a frequency that I'm just not crazy about with that shotgun.
Yeah. I got you. You're starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating. You're starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me.
Can't even really kind of like hear it in the mix.
You're starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating. You're starlight. I need you.
Yeah. Okay. So it's very, very subtle. The point of this part was to add like a little bit more space. So I might just like filter out all this gobbledygook here and see what it sounds like up there. See what happens. It's more for atmosphere. Let's hear where that's kind of placed throughout the arrangement.
It's like a rocket watching blast off. And I'm feeling so electric, that's my inner soul. And even in my blood to my damn star. Damn star. Yeah. I got you. I got you. You're starlight. I need you to fly away with me tonight. You can fly away with me tonight. Baby, let me take you for a ride. For a ride, baby, come on. I'm levitating. You can fly away with me. You can fly away with me tonight. Baby, let me take you for a ride. Yeah. I got you.
I think I'm just gonna ditch it, to be honest. I don't think it's really contributing all that much to the track. There's a lot of kind of like, there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm not sure what the producer was thinking there. Well, we're gonna mute it for this one. We're gonna hide it.
I got you. You're starlight. I need you.
Cone of shame again. That's funny. Yeah, kind of. Or my onesie. Cool. Cool. I'm not really hearing like a whole bunch of like dynamics issues or anything like that. Everything's pretty dynamically controlled. I mean, just take a look at these drums. You know, the drums are pretty solid in terms of like dynamic consistency across the board. I think we might just kind of tame some of this stuff. But before we do that, I want to do a reference check for frequencies.
General frequencies or just on the drums?
General frequencies across the board.
Got it.
Yeah, just to see where our mix is sitting. So let's check our paths first. So this is telling me that we're going to have to do a little bit of taming, a little bit of cleanup on the vocal here. We've got some little bit of buildup happening inside of that 500, which, I mean, that makes sense, right? We've got all these like vocal stacks. That's where a lot of the goodies kind of sit in the vocal. That's where the fundamental frequencies are going to be, right? And they just kind of like pile up and like create this big kind of build up. So I'm going to write that in my vocal notes here for tomorrow. Cool. Let's check that against some references. So now I'm going to talk about a little bit about what mastering the mix, what this reference plugin does that I really, really enjoy. It's this meter right here. Right. So what's happening here is it will tell me how far off my mix is frequency wise from my reference tracks. Right. So for example, with this particular reference, it's showing me that buildup that we just talked about, right? That 500 hertz buildup there. It's saying my mix has much more in this 500 hertz area than my reference does. What else are we noticing here in terms of differences? In terms of frequencies, anyway. Yes, lack of high end. Exactly. You nailed it. Yeah, you nailed it. Low end is great. Yeah, we've totally reined in that low end, at least compared to this reference, right? Because we have to also remember that there's a ballpark. It's more of a range rather than trying to be precise with all of your references, right? Because there's just so much variety between mixes. It all generally kind of like ballparks in that translation curve, like gently sloping down. But I mean,
Not about perfection, it's about perspective.
exactly. Well put. Let's check it out on this reference. Starting to see a pattern, right? Seeing generally roughly the same thing, right? Mine's got more in the mid-range and less in the high end, right? And yeah, somebody says, so a perfect match would show a flat line. Yeah, exactly. But you don't really go for perfect. You drive yourself crazy doing that. You know, allow yourself to.
It just needs to be within the ballpark.
Exactly. And it comes down to all the elements that were used in your mix also, right? The tones that are used, the sounds that were chosen, you know, the parts that were written. See, now we can see in this mix, it's actually kind of stacking up. That's the difference between mixes here, right? My mix is more immersive than this mix. Just in general, I think this mix sounds a little flat compared to mine. But we can still tell a lot when it comes to like the frequencies, you know, frequency spectrum. But still some patterns, right? More mid-range, less high end, right? I'm going to show you how to use that information in just a moment, Mark. Same idea, okay? So if we're trying to get this mix in the ballpark, right? what are the instruments that are contributing to those areas? What's different, right? Let's start with the mid-range. Let's start with the mid-range, okay? 500. What's sitting in 500 that could be potentially building up? Yeah. What say you? Vocals and guitars. Angela, you get a cookie. That's what I would say. That's what I'm hearing is contributing to the most of that 500 buildup, right? Vocals, guitars. Vocals, probably the primary offender here, right? We've got a lot of mid-range content, right? Even if we just solo this vocal, it's got like some saturation on it, right?
You, moonlight, you're my starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me.
That's what 500 sounds like. That's what mid-range sounds like, right? It's almost like a lump in your throat, right? You know how we talked about, Caleb talked about yesterday about the frequencies feeling like they're in different places in your body, right? 500 to me feels like it's like right here. We talked about mid-range kind of being across the chest, right? So throaty, right? 500 kind of feels like this spot to me right here. That's what I'm picking up from this vocal. So if we pull up an analyzer,
You, moonlight, you're my starlight. I need you all night.
look at all this information right around here from 250 to 1K, right? It's right there.
Come on, dance with me. You, moonlight, you're my.
Right. So we're going to take care of that on vocal day. However, there was another offender in here, right? Guitars. Let's just kind of take a look, see where they're sitting. Pretty consistently across the board, right? What else is sitting in the 500 hertz range? Much less. Let's run a little experiment. Let's take out the vocal. See that space? You guys notice that? Yeah. It's all vocal. It's definitely all vocal.
Also,
So-
how useful is this tool to be able to go through things like if you're not using this, why, right? You're not
Yeah,
using
yeah,
this analyzer to be comparing and references and checking all the way through. You're just kind of going blind.
Yeah. It's observation, man. And it's just marrying your eyes to your ears and making observations. You're looking for the problems.
Any frequency analyzer. And especially important once you're 6, 7 hours into a mix and your ears are bleeding and dead.
If you couldn't use Waves PAS Analyzer, what would you use? I would use like the stock, whatever stock analyzer.
Span's
Uh,
free, I think. Voxengo Span. It's free, right?
Yeah, Voxengo Span is free.
Now, one thing to note is that not all frequency analyzers look the same. They're not all a curve. PAS is a curve. Some of them are flat when it's flat. So you just need to learn yours. Listen to a bunch of music through whichever one you choose and see the commonality.
This is a good question. Does it not cause you to focus on what you're seeing rather than what you're hearing? No. You have to approach this as kind of like a kind of scientifically, you lead with your ears and you check with your eyes, right? So you trust your ears and you verify with your eyes. That's the way that I like to approach it.
And at the end of the day, the ears always win. The sound good, if you're in an accurate room anyway, your ears should always win. A good trained ear in a good room. You should always do what's right for the song in terms of the audio, but you can learn a lot by connecting what you're hearing to what you're seeing.
Case in point, like yesterday, I got my initial balance just by going from gut and not checking my references or anything like that. And everything looked okay on the PAS analyzer to me. But today, when we checked against those references, we found that the balance of the drums was a little bit off. We found that the balance of the guitars was a little bit off, right? After listening. So that's a reason not to. That's the case against making decisions solely with your eyes, right? The point is to marry what you're seeing with what you're hearing and be able to make decisions based on those two things working together. Makes sense? Makes sense. So that was one of two kind of like main differences that we saw with our mix versus our reference tracks. Right? We saw that 500, like that mid-range as being, a spot that we need to pay attention to, right? What was the other area that we needed to pay attention to? Brandon. Yeah, you got it. High end. Exactly. Yep. That's right. That's right. So let's do a deep dive. Let's dig a little bit here, right? Let's see what we got going on with our references. What's different about our references? Why is the high end more intense on our references? And what instruments could we potentially kind of highlight to bridge that gap of difference there? I'm going to include my vocals in here too, because the vocals could be an offender, right? What do you think, guys? What's lacking in the high end? What instrument is lacking in the high end? Or instruments? You know, where's their room? Vocals. I'm seeing a lot of vocals. Seeing hi-hats. Seeing cymbals. I'm seeing cymbals, vocals, I think are the ones that I'm seeing the most. Cymbals and vocals. Everything but bass and kick. Yeah. Yeah, the ones I'm noticing here, at least the biggest differences, I think, are probably drums, vocals, guitars. Those are the ones that I think are probably lacking the most in that area. Drums, guitars, vocals. Right. Keep in mind too that when we rebalance these vocals, in terms of like the buildup that's going on there, we're gonna save some energy there, and it's gonna cause there to be a rebalancing of frequencies, right? And it's likely going to tilt those vocals a little bit more towards the high end of the spectrum, which will help to fill in a little bit of that gap, right? That being said, you know, we're gonna save that.
Yeah, when you take the mid-range out of those vocals, it's going to allow the high-end frequencies to come through more.
10 decibel louder shotgun blasts. Yeah, I'll take that under advisement. Totally. Funny. Yeah, to me, I want to play a little bit with the guitars and the drums. All right. So let's see what we got here. See what we got with the drums. See what we can get away with.
Yeah. I got you. You're starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating. You're starlight. I need you all night. Come on.
So we don't have individual control over like the cymbals or anything like that, right? So there's only so far we can actually push this thing. The good news is that I think most of the high end in the references is coming from the vocal.
I believe that you're for me, I feel it in our energy, I see us written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now or never, baby, nothing's ever too far. Glitter in the sky, glitter in our eyes, shining just the way we are. I feel like we're forever every time we get together, but whatever, let's get lost on Mars. You want me, I want you, baby, my sugar boo, I'm levitating, the Milky Way, we're renegading. Yeah. I got you, you're starlight, I need you all night. Come on, dance with me, I'm levitating.
See if we can't get a little bit more kind of sparkle out of this guitar. All the guitars. Just gonna Bring them all up. We're gonna find a sweet spot. Let's see.
I believe that you're for me, I feel it in our energy, I see us written in the stars. We can go around the Milky Way, we're renegading.
Yeah.
I got you, moonlight, your starlight, I need you all night. Come on, dance with me, I'm levitating. You, moonlight, your starlight, I need you all night. Come on, dance with me, I'm levitating. You can fly away with me tonight. You can fly away with me tonight. Baby, let me take you for a ride. For the ride, I'm levitating. You can fly away with me tonight. You can fly away with me tonight. Baby, let me take you for a ride.
My life is like a rocket watching blast off, and I'm feeling so electric, that's my ass off. And even if I wanted to, I can't stop.
Why a bell instead of a shelf? It gives me kind of like I want to control over the slope on both sides. There's nothing, you know, I would probably. It doesn't really matter. I mean, you can do either, but I just like the control of this, like narrowing in on a specific frequency rather than shelving the whole thing. So typically with guitars, there's not really much going on up here anyway.
Hands up. Yeah. My life is like a rocket watching blast off, and I'm feeling so electric, that's my ass off. And even if I wanted to, I can't stop. Hands up. Yeah.
You want me?
Just gonna pop these down a little bit. Cool.
If you wanna run away with me, I know a galaxy and I can take you for a ride. I had a premonition that we fell into a rhythm where the music don't stop for life. Glitter in the sky, glitter in my eyes, shining just the way I like. If you're feeling like you need a little bit of company, you met me at the perfect time. You want me, I want you, baby. My sugar boo, I'm levitating. The Milky Way, we're renegading. I got you, moonlight, your starlight, I need you all night. Come on, dance with me, I'm levitating. You, moonlight, your starlight, I need you all night. Come on, dance with me, I'm levitating. I believe that you're for me, I feel it in our energy, I see us written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now. I never made it, nothing's ever too far. Glitter in the sky, glitter in our eyes, shining just the way we are. I feel like we're forever every time we get together, but whatever, let's get lost out far. You want me, I want you, baby. My sugar boo, I'm levitating. The Milky Way, we're renegading.
Yeah.
I got you, moonlight, your starlight, I need you all night. Come on, dance with me, I'm levitating. You, moonlight, your starlight, I need you all night. Come on, dance with me, I'm levitating. You can fly away with me tonight. You can fly away with me tonight. Baby, let me take you for a ride. For the ride, I'm levitating. You can fly away with me tonight. You can fly away with me tonight. Baby, let me take you for a ride.
My life is like a rocket watching blast off, and I'm feeling so electric, that's my ass off. And even if I wanted to, I can't stop. Hands up. Yeah. My life is like a rocket watching blast off, and I'm feeling so electric, that's my ass off. And even if I wanted to, I can't stop. Hands up.
You want me, I want you, baby. My sugar boo, I'm levitating. The Milky Way, we're renegading. I got you, moonlight, your starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me.
I'm levitating.
You can fly away with me tonight. You can fly away with me tonight. Baby, let me take you for a ride. For a ride, baby, come on. I'm levitating.
Yeah, I'm cool with where that's sitting for now without doing any vocal work. I think this is sitting in the ballpark. Awesome possum. Let's take another quick break and then we're going to do some bus processing. And I'm going to walk you through a little bit of the spatial processing method that we use here. I don't really hear a lot of opportunity for spatial processing in this mix, but I'm still going to walk you through kind of like the process. There are a couple, at least one thing that I want to add space to. Maybe two. That's my plan for this thing though. So we'll save these vocals for another day. As long as that sounds good to you guys.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
See you in 5.
Do bus, we'll do some bus processing, some fun stuff. And spatial processing. Which one of those do you guys want to see first? Bus processing or spatial processing? Oh man, I'm seeing a lot more bus than spatial. Let's do that. Let's do it in that order. Okay. Cool. Sweet. All right, we'll plan on that. Maybe answer a few more questions when we get back. Cool, cool. All right, guys. If you're not sure what those mean, you're gonna learn. Don't worry. Sit tight. I'll walk you through it. I'm gonna bring up my favorite timer. Goog. We'll see you back here in 5. Cool, cool. All right, guys. So I had to get my sweatshirt on. Feeling cold in this house. Any questions so far, guys? You following me? Following me so far? Anybody taking away some nuggets, some gold nuggets, some aha moments, maybe some lights getting flicked on for some people? Any light bulb moments? You know, things that maybe you're going to adopt into your workflows or mindsets or philosophies when it comes to mixing? Somebody just say chicken wings? You know, it's Wing Wednesday. We do chicken wings in our house every Wednesday. Yeah. You like that, Carlo? Joseph, you asked how to actually read the analyzer to see the buildups. Did you catch the day one class by any chance? The day one, fix the mix. We talk about that. We talk about that in day one. If you missed it, you can watch the replay. Oh yeah, the curve would probably be different if the production is just like an acoustic guitar and a vocal, you know. But there's one way to find out. One surefire way to find out. Grab yourself the PAS analyzer, run a bunch of tests on a bunch of different music. That's the truth. If I wasn't teaching, how many hours? Yeah, I like to spend no more than 6 hours on a mix. Most can get done in like 4. For me, anyway. Different people have different time frames for that, you know? Where do I buy my shirts? Local shop here in Rochester, New York called Crazy Dog. I think all their stuff's on Amazon. Does limiting instead of compression solve consistency or thick compression goal? Consistency. Yeah, that's the only reason I use limiting on stuff, just to create more consistency. Richie says I wasn't able to make out all you were doing. You can check out the replay, man. That's why they're there. Watch the replay, take some notes, watch as many times as you want for the next, I think, week. I think they're up for a week. Jake, are you checking all your mixing decisions on headphones? No. No, I don't do that. At some point, it would be good to know if fewer tracks would qualitatively change the mixing process. Qualitatively? What do you mean by that? Fewer tracks qualitatively change the process. My process is the same either way. I fix things first to bring things to baseline, and then I enhance things. Those are my high level. That's my high level approach. Solve problems, and then play around a little bit to try to enhance things. That's my approach. Whether it's 10 tracks or 110. Do I check my mix masters on multiple different systems? Nope, I don't. I have my room is dialed in. I have a good sounding room. And I haven't needed to do that in a while. I haven't felt the need to do that in a while anyway. No car speakers or anything like that. No car test. You know, I typically just, I get it right. I know my room is telling me the truth. I get it right here. And then I know that it's going to translate. My client, you know, clients and artists and bands and stuff like that, they can do their own car test and listen, but I never really typically had a problem since I had my room tuned. How do you load and copy reference songs into Reference? Yeah, they've got a whole, like, you can Google that. You can go to Mastering the Mixes site and they've got like tutorials and walkthroughs on exactly how to do that stuff. Do I use Checkmate? Checkmate? No, I don't. I don't know what that is. No, I don't do car test. Can you let us see your setup? I can post a picture in the group for you guys if you want. No, I don't do car tests or anything like that. Do you guys do a class in acoustics? Yeah, that's part of our, like program. But we don't do like a whole separate class on it. We can do one on YouTube though, if enough of you are interested in that kind of thing. We can post an acoustics course. Totally be into that. How do you set the limiter on the bass? Yeah, I typically just do it by ear, you know, or I marry my ears and my eyes, so I look at the meter to see when like the signal is like pegged, basically, where it's not dancing up and down, where it's just kind of like, boop, just kind of consistent. I'm gonna have to. I'm sorry, guys. I can't hit all your questions because we got a ton to cover. I'm just gonna cherry pick a few, a few more. I wish I could. There's nothing I love more than talking about nerdy audio stuff. I'm just sorting through. Huh, that's cool, man. That's cool. How do you organize and color the tracks on the mixer? That's a Logic specific thing. You can just Google that. Cool. Yeah, we can absolutely do that, Steven. When you talk about low budget, you know, acoustics, you can use blankets and stuff. Like you can use comforters or whatever. Like you can go to the thrift store and grab a bunch of stuff, whatever. Oh, yeah, don't worry. We'll hook you up. If there's enough interest for that kind of thing. So. I don't RTA. No, I don't RTA my listening position or anything like that. Monitors, just some discontinued KRK VXT6s. I don't use a sub. Do you mix in mono sometimes? No. I used to. I check in mono. I don't mix in mono. No, I think ideally I recommend mixing in a well-tuned room with speakers. Anyway. Nikki, you can just use the stock EQ that comes with Pro Tools. It's enough. It is enough. You don't need a whole bunch of stuff. I've used all stock plugins today. We're going to continue to use stock plugins here too. No, maybe not. I don't know. You guys want to continue seeing stock? I'll let you guys decide. For the bus processing portion, would you like to see stock plugins? One's in chat for stock, two's in chat for like my go-to plugins. Oh my God, I can't even follow this. I can't follow this. We've done stock up to this point. I'll just use some go-tos, if that's okay. Like, just keep in mind though, like the only reason I'm using them is because I know how to use them. And they're easy for me to use. I know how they work and I'm very quick with them, right? But I don't want you to get bogged down by them, is the point. Like there are like the plugins that I'm going to show you right now, the plugins that I use, there are like stock alternatives and free alternatives for all of this stuff. Okay. It's just like different plugins are like different brands of sneaker. Right? They're just like, they've got their own differences. They're just different. Free in stock. Free in stock. All right. You know what? I take it back. I will take the challenge. I'll take on the challenge. Both. No, two. I'm not going to make everybody happy here, guys. So we're just going to have to come to terms on that. Let's do some bus processing and then we'll move into spatial. All right. Just going to do it on the fly. There we go. Starting with the drums. So up to this point, you know, I feel like I've fixed everything that needs to be fixed, right? I've kind of brought this track to a baseline where it's kind of sitting in a ballpark with my references, except for the vocals, right? We're not talking about vocals, everything but vocals here, right? So now I have the freedom and the ability to kind of take this a step further and focus on enhancements, right? And these are just kind of like very small, kind of subtle changes that you can make to the mix and that you can make to audio. And this is a little bit more on the subjective side of things. So it's a little bit more taste based, right? This is kind of like more opinionated. And it's really just kind of about experimenting with a few things to see what sounds good. You know? So I'm going to do that here. I'm going to start with the drums and just kind of make my way through a few things. Okay, I've just decided in this moment I am going to use my go-to tools. So those of you who wanted it, you're welcome. Those of you who didn't, don't worry. I'm going to give you alternatives. Dynamics. I'm going to try a little bit of parallel compression on these drums here. Just to kind of glue them together, but also to bring out a little bit more detail, a little bit more excitement, a little bit more energy, right? So I'm going to do a fast attack, fast release here on compression. And I'm going to get this kind of like sitting between 10 and 20 decibels of gain reduction, just like really smashing away at this thing. And then I'm going to bring back the mix knob and just blend it in to a point where I'm kind of like happy with the effect. And this may or may not work. It might be a cool effect. It might not be. Again, this is about enhancement. This is about just like trying some things, right? Let's check it out. You're that over compressed, just kind of like really pumpy kind of sound. Now, I don't want those, I don't want the drums to sound like that, but a little bit of that effect maybe blended in might sound kind of cool, right? Might give the drums a little bit of like power and bombast, really, right? I'm going to blend that effect in using the mix knob here. Just making those drums sound bigger, right? And what it's doing is like, it's kind of like, it's bringing up the room, the sound of the room. It's making the drum sound a little bit more cohesive here too, right? And a little bit more controlled.
One's,
So let's
in, one's in chat if you want us to turn it up a little bit, the session volume. 2 in chat if you think it's good.
I'll bring it up.
It's like mostly ones.
Bring it up. Good enough? What's that? Yeah.
Better.
Very, very subtle effect. Let's hear it in context here. I'm going to turn the output up just a touch. It's the cohesiveness, right? Like this is what people mean when they say glue, right? And there's no right or wrong here either, right? It's really just about preference. I prefer this gluier kind of like more detailed, exciting kind of sound, right? Somebody else might prefer it to be a little bit more pokey. right? So that being said, you know, it's preference. It's all taste, right? That snare is actually coming back in the mix a little bit, but it sounds bigger, right? It's kind of bringing up the sustain, like the back half, the sustain of the snare, rather than that pokey, like front end of the snare, right? Which makes it sound fatter and bigger, right? And we've done that with bus processing. We don't even have access to the snare. Something to think about here, right? We're processing a stereo track, the whole kit, right? And it's amazing how these processes can actually affect individual instruments. It's just fascinating to me. I just think it's awesome. It also makes the drums feel a little less programmed, you know, makes them feel like they're a little bit more human. Just a touch. Nope. George says, nope. Fair. That's fair. Be fair, I played all these parts. I drummed out all these parts and then just like tighten everything up. The only thing I didn't play was this. On the kick. Like, I can't do that. I know guys that can do it. I know plenty of metal drummers that can do that stuff, but I can't do that.
You played it on your electric kit?
Yeah, on the digital. Yeah. Yeah, I can't do that crap. I don't practice that much. Yeah, you're a metal drummer? Mashi Joshi? You play with your socks on? You guys do socks only? I knew guys that can just like slam that double kick. Just like sock, and they just do it socks only. Like heel toe, like this wild heel toe stuff. It's crazy. Vans, yeah, Vans work. Anyway, we don't have to get into that. So I'm happy with that. You know, another thing that I want to try here just to open up these drums, you know, give them a little bit of flavor, some tape saturation. My only concern with this here is that tape tends to add a little bit of a low end bump, and we've taken that out of the kick already. All right, so we'll see how it works. Dude, definitely opens up that snare, right? There's just kind of like, it's a touch of just like opens up the high end of that snare. Nice.
Saturn's cool though, because then you could have it not saturate the low end.
The low end, exactly. Yep, I gotta hop on the Fab Filter Saturn train there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like what that's doing. I'm gonna play with the tape type, but I'm pretty confident that the FG9 is gonna sound a little bit. It's gonna be better for this mix than the FG456. Let's see though. Let's see. Again, it's all preference. Yeah, 456 is just bumpier, thumpier, heavier in the low mids. And then 9 feels like, to me, it feels like it's giving it like a little bit more of an edge up top. We did all that work clearing out the low end, so that's why I'm gonna stick with the FG9. I don't want to add any more kind of that thump, right? Probably better to check it in the mix. You know that? You know how muddy it gets when we flip to 456, right? The edge on that snare, the top end. Opens it right up. Like, that's metal drums, right? Just kicking through everything. Cool. That's drums, my friends. I might just do one more little move here. Check this out. Just with the bus processing on and off. Symbols in there so you can hear the difference. Right? Just a little bit more open, a little bit more alive, a little bit more crisp. Right?
One thing I've always admired about Jake's mixing is that he understands like restraint. I think it's easy to like go too far in the moment with certain moves. But what happens with Jake is he does a lot of subtle moves. What needs to happen, but by the time it's done, it adds up to it being really impactful, but not overdone. So easy to overdo mixes, over process them.
Bro, we've all been there. All been there. Right. Last thing I want to do with these drums is clip them. I want to clip them. All of this stuff here. Any of these kind of like peaks popping up here, I know that if I make these really, really consistent in the mixing stage, that when it comes to mastering, I'll be able to jack up the volume without sacrificing like a bunch of dynamic range and squashing the mix, right? So why it's important to think in terms of, the end in mind, having the end in mind when you're mixing, right? So I'm going to take care of just dynamics here. Notice how that meter is kind of jumping up and down. Are we losing performance dynamics though? Maybe, maybe not. Let's try it out. I'm going to use this clipper by Venn Audio because it's a really great teaching tool. You know, you can see, so clipping chops the tops of the waveforms right off using some hard like saturation distortion, basically. When I play this track, you can see, you know, all the peaks, all the transients, you know, all the drum hits and things like that. And then when I bring down the ceiling, you're going to see what I'm clipping off of the waveform. Why not standard clip? It's just you can use standard clip, totally. I like this one. I just prefer this one. Okay, so I'm not hearing any audible difference here. However, what you're going to see down here on the meter is quite a bit of headroom saved, right? So check this out. Watch the meter. This is without clipping. Peaking at minus 15.5, right? And then with clipping. Peaking at almost minus 19.
No audible difference, but saving all that headroom. And if you're thinking like a mastering engineer, you know that every time you save that headroom, every time you carve out space, both in frequencies and in dynamic transients, this is stuff that a mastering engineer can it'll benefit the master. We can take it a lot farther without it overloading our tools. So this is very, very important to getting that loud, beautiful, punchy master.
Yep. And to somebody else's question, somebody was asking about like sacrificing dynamics. Yeah, there's no audible difference here. At least I can't hear any audible difference. Hey, Jeffrey, I saw that question. Can you, I'm trying to keep up the best I can, man. I'm sorry if I missed something. Do you adjust the output knob after making any of these moves? Like on the V clip? Nope. Nope. That's the beauty of it, right? Is that you're reducing the dynamic range here by clipping the peaks, you know, chopping off the tops of the waveform, but there's no audible difference, but it's actually quieter, right? It's actually quieter, but you can't hear it. It's perceived loudness is happening here. Yeah, how is clipping different than limiting? Clipping chops off the top of the waveform. Limiting turns down the waveform after it passes the threshold. That's the difference. You know, limiting, if you do too much limiting, it's just going to sound really, really squashed. If you do too much clipping, it's going to sound distorted, right? It's actually going to distort. Right? could start to hear, I pushed it a little bit far so you can start to hear the tonal changes that's happening with the drum kit too, kind of making it sound a little bit thicker, right? Because if you start to chop off the transients, then you're left with, you know, this average kind of volume information, right? That's not my point here. You know, that's not my goal here. My goal is just to save some headroom. Cool. Make sense? I miss a question on plugin order. Notice that your stereo out in Logic has a specific order of plugins. What's the order? Oh yeah, totally. Yep, this order you have to do. Basically. Right. I always recommend you put the you know, a reference plugin before any kind of metering so that you can then meter the signal from the reference plugin. Right. Everything else, I mean, all of these other things, if you have EQ compensation, that should be last, and then reference plugin, that should be first. Everything else doesn't really matter. You're just metering plugins. Hopefully that helps. Same no matter what DAW you're using. Anyway, let's keep moving. Now, I've actually added some gain to that drum kit, which I'm gonna make up for here on the output. Cool. I'm happy with that. Awesome. Guitar, let's check. You know, I like those guitars. I think I'm going to do the same thing here, though. I'm going to add a little bit of tape to them. And I'm going to do a little widening. I don't usually do this, but I'm going to do it today. I'm going to use some phase-based widening on these. Hear how when I like jack up this width slider, it's kind of has this like this smeared effect. The frequencies are kind of smeared across the spectrum, right? Stereo spectrum. It's almost like you're pancaking the frequencies. I don't necessarily want this effect to be like very obvious like that. Right. So I'm just going to add like a little bit, and I'm going to do this in context. And what this does is it can have the effect of the guitars seeming like they're a little bit wider in the mix. Basically what I do is I bring this slider up until I can start to hear it, and then I just back it off a little bit. All right, just dial it back. Hear the difference? It's so subtle. It really is like kind of, you'll probably hear more of a difference. Caleb, you probably hear more of a difference in the headphones, right? Spatially, like what's going on left to right.
Still pretty subtle, but it's
Yeah.
good.
Should be though. That's the point. It should be subtle.
This is what I mean with you. You always do these subtle moves, but they add up to a and I mean that more on enhancement stuff. You're pretty aggressive on problem solving, but when it comes to enhancement, it's not ever overdone.
Yeah. Try to keep it really tight. Try to keep it really, really subtle. Yeah.
Could do a
Totally.
loss here, but this was a cool way to do it.
Yeah. Haas with an already stereo track. I can actually move this over to Haas mode. We can hear what that would sound like. I've never tried it. So there's like a phase-based mode, and then there's like a Haas-based mode. Let's see.
You can see the Ozone's algorithm there. On the Haas one, it was more phasey, and then their phase one, I'm sure what it's doing is taking into account the phase, and it's so it's not phasing as much.
Probably combing it, or like somehow. I don't know what's going on under the hood, but
Cool.
super cool. Yeah, this is free, by the way, guys. It's a free plugin. You can go to Isotope. Just Google search Ozone Imager. You can grab this one. That's when I check things in mono. Whenever I mess around with like phase-based stuff, that's when I like to switch over to mono to see like if it's actually a problem, or if it's like an amount of phase that's okay. So I just did that here, like on my monitors. I have like a monitor switcher here, and I just checked, I just clicked my mono button. I summed everything to mono to make sure that, there was no weird artifacts or anything like that going on. And we're good. So I'm going to leave that as is. Dude, I'm really happy with this. I'm really happy where this is sitting right now. I'm going to forego bus processing on this other stuff just for the sake of time. So we can get into spatial processing, because we're running pretty long right now. We're running at 3 hours. I wanted to try to wrap this up in the next, half hour or something like that. So
Since we're going to do spatial processing on the vocals tomorrow, we could just do spatial and do that one move for the instrumental thing tomorrow. Do all the buckets. Let's just do that tomorrow.
I want to do spatial processing tomorrow then?
Let's do that tomorrow. It'll be
Okay.
it'll be just as fast.
Okay. You guys okay with that? You
Yeah.
guys all right with that? we have had a long session today. I don't want to keep you guys, and if you guys dumping a lot of like just kind of like unloading the fire hose, so you got a lot to absorb probably. Yeah.
Cool. Well, yours-
Enough already. She says. Oh, that's funny.
now it's your turn.
That's right. I'll give you
Since
back.
You've done a volume only mix. Now it's your turn. Go in and use EQ compression on the volume only mix. Carve out space, control the dynamics, see how that works for you. Following the process work today, try clippers out. Try some, if you haven't done that before, try some different things and see how far you can get with it. Tomorrow will be incredible. We're going to do vocals. You probably can't get this hat anywhere. I got it from a guy who at a flea market in Seattle. I know, it's rad. Tomorrow's going to be incredible. A whole day just on vocals. It's just a very important part of a mix is getting those vocals to sound expensive and wonderful. So that should be a lot of fun. Same time tomorrow. Come back, and that should be a good time. Thanks, y'all. Have a great night. Thanks, Jake. Great work today. I loved seeing all the help everyone was giving each other in the chat and all that. You guys are wonderful. Good job showing up. Yep, we'll see y'all tomorrow. Thanks.